I call to, in a minute, just a second, let me take a breath. Everybody's here. Look at that. I call a meeting to order at 10 a.m, Friday 19th, and we'll start with prayer. Heavenly Father, grant that we who would seek to serve you may have the wisdom of your Spirit, the guiding of your hand, and the grace to serve together for the prosperity of our city through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. National Anthem. Australia. Fair. Please be seated. Okay. Item 1, all council are here. Apologies from our CEO. I've got him to attend a selection panel, which is crucial for our city. So hopefully it only takes an hour, but we'll see what happens. I won't get in further to that, but you'll know in real time when he gets back in that we make sure we get representation from the Gold Coast. Leave of absence, nil. Condolences, I go to Councillor Gates first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that a motion of condolence be passed and a message of sympathy forwarded to Mrs Shirley Stanford on the passing of Robert Charles Stanford.
Second, Councillor Peter Young.
Mr Mayor, Rob Stanford passed away a little while ago on the 3rd of April after a battle with Parkinson's disease. Rob was a huge participant in life and in particular the community of Northern Gold Coast. He was known to many of us through his membership of the Coomera Valley Rotary Club, and some of you may recall him as the father of Susie Wright, the founder of Digger, who very tragically lost her own battle with cancer some years ago. Rob's a resident of Division 5. He was an enterprising businessman who started life as a fisherman, became a concreter, then a farmer, and ultimately the developer of many infrastructure projects on the Gold Coast. Apart from Rotary and his contribution to the community, Rob had a passion for model trains and developed a narrow gauge railway at his home in Maudsley. He often invited friends and family there to have a look at his trains. A gentleman who managed his illness with dignity, Rob also donated $50,000 to the Queensland Parkinson's Project within Griffith's Biomedical Research Unit in the hope of improving prospects for people with Parkinson's. Tragically, he passed away soon after. Rob Stanford, your friends and colleagues at Rotary and the wider community salute you, and may you rest in peace.
Councillors Farrell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just ask that my name be added to the condolence.
Okay, could you add to that? Okay. All right, I put motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. I now go to Councillor
Mr Mayor, likewise, can I add my name to that?
Yeah, could you add Councillor Peter Young? I now go to Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that a motion of condolence on the passing of Grant Davenport be passed and a message of sympathy be forwarded to the Davenport family.
Seconder, Councillor Gates.
Mr Mayor, the Davenport family have been long-time contributors to the Benogan Valley community. They've been instrumental in the development of that area. There's a large park in Benogan Valley known as Davenport Park, named after the Davenport family. And Grant Davenport will be known to many locals. Whilst he was always just a farming kind of guy for many years as the development of Benogan occurred. He mowed everyone's lawn. That was his bit. You know, his family donated the land or developed the land, but he went on to continue to know many local families in the area as the local lawnmower. He'll be sorely missed in our community after the devastating accident that occurred on a local property as he was actually mowing someone's lawn. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Wow. Councillor, I put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, a motion carried. Back to you, Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It has been a sad season. I have another condolence here, and I'd move that a motion of condolence on the passing of Roberta, who was known as Robbie Hobson, be passed, and a message of sympathy be forwarded to the Hobson family.
Seconder, Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. For many years, Terry Hobson was the president of the Mayoral Chamber of Commerce, and his dutiful wife was present at so many community events and so many events related to the Chamber of Commerce over many years. Unfortunately, Terry has now moved on. He's moved up to Early Beach to get a bit of a warmer climate, but sadly, his wife recently passed. She'll be known to many people in the community and sorely missed, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, could I be added to that, please?
Yeah, Councillor O'Neill, please. Yeah, time moves on, doesn't it? Put motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Councillors, item 4, Mayoral Minutes, nil. Confirmation of minutes, 5.1. Councillors, I move that the minutes of, 844th meeting of the council held on Tuesday, 18th June 2024, be received. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Councillors, any amendment to that? Any changes to that? No? Well, I move for adoption of that minute. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. All in favour, show of hands. Against, a motion carried. 5.2, councillors, I move the special meeting of the Council of the City of the Gold Coast held on Thursday, 20th of June 2024, be received. Seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Again, any amendments, corrections? No. I move for adoption. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Item 6, Mayor's Report. Okay. Councillor, I'm going to try to summarise one, but the full text will be in the minutes. Okay, and I know some of you will go right through it twice. First item, Mayoral Broadloom Luncheon. I took the opportunity to welcome and invite all the first-term councillors and also Councillor Curtis, who had a very short first term, and so I thought get her there as well. And really, just getting a feedback of how they felt, induction, when you're nearly seating around the chamber and different environment. I know that was quite daunting when I first came in, so I thought, well, let's share and see how we can move on smoothly. And so I can see that you've all hit the ground running, and I'm absolutely confident that the city is in good hands this term, with a good mix with experience and fresh councillors. And so that's a photo. How come there's only 4 of us there? Somebody left early, or didn't want to be photographed with us. Okay, we go to Salvo's Coat Tree Initiative. This initiative was by Kevin Lawler from Gold Coast Salvos. How he started it because he had an office in the court opposite and seeing people shivering, and he had some spare coats and things in his office. He brought it out and hung it on the trees, and from there I met Kevin when he gave his speech at the Salvation Army's breakfast, one of them, and share his life story, turning it around from being a tragic sort of person to God-loving person, and so I support. And of course, I went through our closet and hang a few, and that's Ruth's jacket. I hope she didn't. Anyway, she was happy now it's donated. And so special thanks to Kevin and the Salvos for this incredible work, and it's now a tradition that every beginning of every winter, I'm going to keep taking my coats and jackets down and hang it up. There's about 5 trees opposite the courthouse there, and so I invite you to look into it. And, I mean, take it down, take yours down. Don't go and grab some of my good stuff. Lifeguard exchange program. I joined the city lifeguard Glenn Van Drunnen at Burleigh Heads to announce this year's program. City lifeguard will be sharing their skill with Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan as part of the long-running exchange program. The visit will provide valuable support and education to Kanagawa, but it will also give lifeguard experience with larger crowds on the beach. We can learn of each other, and the program is really, with this sharing, we'll be saving lives. Hotter, Big View Collection, joined by Councillor Flower was there, Councillor Young. Any other councillor were there? Anyway, we joined by National Gallery of Australia, Dr. Nick Metsovich, to unveil a spectacular A Bigger View exhibition at Hotter Gallery. Basically, National Gallery is sharing us some of their artwork on level 3 across in Hotter right now. The value of the art on loan is over $100 million worth, and it's free for everyone on the Gold Coast to go and check it out. And it's usually hung in the National Gallery, and you can come here, and it'll be there for 3 months. And so it's a wonderful idea, and I think we're going to keep getting them to share. Caring is sharing, so we'll get some more artwork from the National Gallery. Big City Lights, Councillor Patterson, Doran, Flower, Tozer and Young was in attendance at the launch at Hung Tong Gardens in Southport. Not sure if anyone else was there. The Big City Lights return for a second, bigger and brighter in our city. This year, Festival showcased 40 works across Southport with all those artwork projection going up there. Great news. I think it's going to be about 40,000 people visit in that period. So really bringing artwork to the street in the big way. Gold Coast Australian of the Year Awards. Councillor Hammel, Flower, Young, Wilkinson, Lacastra, Tozer, Doran and Marshall in attendance. Anyone else? No. And we honour some outstanding Gold Coasters who've done incredible work for our community. And congratulations to Brett and Belinda Beasley, were named our Gold Coast Australian of the Year. It's well known that following their son Jack's stabbing in 2019, Brett and Belinda has dedicated themselves to advocate for change and reducing knife crime. And they were behind the force behind introducing Jack's Law in March 2023, which allows police to use metal detector 1 to find and remove dangerous weapons in all Safe Night precinct. And I think other states are actually coming on board now. So they're not just stopping in Queensland, they're going to work right throughout Australia for Jack's Law. Very humbling, and both, I've been to many functions with both Brett and Belinda, and so always the same, real humbling, have a beer with Brett, and you know how tragic to lose a child at early age. I can't fathom it. And other award winners, Maureen Stevenson, Gold Coast Senior Australian of the Year, who supported and promoted Queensland charities for over 30 years and has donated $6 million to various charities since 2010. Abby Williams, Gold Coast Young Australian of the Year, founded Letters of Hope, a mental health charity where handwritten letters with helpful strategies and in words, empowerment sent to those who are struggling. So she's got volunteers writing letters, and some of the people who write the letters who have been in a terrible space themselves, and they share their life story, trying to help other people who's in a dark space, to give them hope and love. And Mia Sims, the Gold Coast local hero, who was there was a young man on the bridge above the M1, and it looks like it's going to jump off, and the intervention, she stopped the car nearby a police station, shouting for help. The police responded quickly and closed the M1, and the young man was negotiated down off the bridge. So it's very cool, very, very caring to do. So now, because we, as the council, align those four awards, categories, those four winners will go forward to state award, and from there, if they win the state, they go to Australian National Award. So it's quite good. Connect to Home Donation Drive. We launched a donation drive at People's First Stadium, shouting that 7th of August we'll have the one-stop shop for all those people who in need, homelessness connection. They can come in, get their hair done, bring their dog, get them bathed, get clipped, get some food, tin cans, clothing, basically everything you need, and all the donation. If anyone's watching, there's still time to donate at any of our community centres that we're collecting those wonderful things. Toothpaste, toothbrush, whatever you got. All right. Koala breeding season. Let me start with this. Why did the koala cross the road? No one? All right. To find a friend. So it's breeding season. So for our native animals, we're urging Gold Coasters to slow down and keep a lookout for furry friends who's trying to cross the road, okay? We got electronic signs up there. The koala is smiling, so let him pass safely by slowing down. And the city will also be installing fauna fencing and buying protection land for native animals habitat, providing wild care and animal ambulance, and restoring native habitat through tree planting. Okay, Nature Conservation Assistant Program launched. I announced the opening of this year's NCAP grants, which provides financial support to landholders wanting to restore their property's native bushland. And they do that, and what happens? They get so passionate about it, they start restoring it in our parklands as well, and that's just normal. So it's out there. This year is $150,000 there to be shared between the successful conservation projects. Next, NBL Blitz announcement. The Blitz is back from the 7th to the 14th of September at the Sports and Leisure Centre in Carrara. Last year we hosted the biggest and most successful blitz in history, with 20,000 people attending the pre-season tournament. So come on in and check the stars of NBL. Yep, you can use your imagination how the ball went over his hand and got into the basket. 3 points on the board. Then I say, I am dreaming. Gold Coast Library accessible collection. Picture tells 1,000 words, so let's play with video.
Your library card could be more useful than you think. It's not just books on offer. You can now take your pick from a huge collection of games and puzzles to entertain the family for free. You'd expect to find aisle after aisle of these at the library, but tucked away in neat little boxes. You'll never know what you'll discover. Oh, what's in here? Sensory toys, learning games, puzzles.
Yay!
But this is more than a toy library.
Tell us all about this. That's right, this is the accessible collection that Gold Coast Library offers. It's one of the largest accessible collections in Australia.
Around 1,000 items to help people of different ages with different challenges.
For people with dementia, and as you're moving it, it's soothing.
Whether it's kids falling behind at school, struggling with social skills, or adults who need help with literacy and communication.
We don't want to leave anyone behind. They can use this.
Each library has its own collection to browse and borrow, and when times are tough, these are educational resources that can also entertain the family.
You want to go put it in the pram?
For free.
That's great for the kids. We've actually got a couple at home at the moment.
These are probably luxury items that many families wouldn't be able to afford.
That's really the key. Most families are struggling with petrol prices and food prices going up.
Join the library, it's free. Play with them here or take them home.
Very good. So, announcement. FIFA World Cup qualifier. So, the green and gold, we're going to be playing Bahrain, round 3 of the World Cup qualifier. So, let's get out there and cheer the Socceroos. This is real football, right, Bob? So it's quite incredible, actually. That's the coach of the Socceroo there, and looking forward to watching highest possible national teams playing each other right here. Oh yes, yes. At Robina, the Wallaby Juniors, Okay, and next one, Gold Coast Marathon. We launched the 44th Gold Coast Marathon, fully subscribed, 30,000 participants this year. Congratulations to the winners, Timothy Kipkori, and the lady winner was Yuki Nakamura. Yuki, yes. And so 50% of participants came from outside Queensland, and $37 million into our local economy over 2 days. It's such a great one. You know, by the time we keep going, I still can't work out why the Olympic marathon is not run here. You know, why is that? There must be something wrong with the board. Let's fix it. Those Who Rock, this was the second year of community concert where over 200 guitarists and of all ages and abilities took to the stage and rock out with Aussie icons. And was it Cram from Spider Bait, Dave Gleason from Patient Hodson, and it's a real hoot. So next one, Art Box program. We announced the city has expanded its Art Box program, another 23 location across the city. Next one, Wonder Reef. I took the opportunity to go and check it out. That's why I'm a little bit nasally. And so I took one of our local diver, Baz Luhrmann, and now he's telling all people in Hollywood that some of the best dive in the world is right here on the Gold Coast. And because he's just got back from a dive in the Philippines, and we did one reef was outstanding. It really worked. The coral has grown so much, and the marine life is theming, but wanting to those people who goes out there try. There's no fishing there, right? No warning. So we turned up, and there was a boat there fishing. So I got my camera out, and they're all waving and smiling. Oh, what I want to do is take the retro number so we can book them, you know. So I took the photo, put the camera down. They went, "Oh, it's the mayor." So they pull up, and too late. Thank you. I got your smile. Next one, Queensland Airport boardroom discussion. So I got to meet chair of Queensland Airport, Anne Cherry, and they explained to me what's their intention, what they're going to do, expansion of the airport, etc. So it was a good lunch. Curtis McGrath was there, so he's getting ready to go to Paralympics. He told us a little bit about that. Screen Industries Sunset Network event. Councillor Gates, the Castro Flower, Tozer, Martin, Wilkinson, and O'Neill in attendance. There's a lot of people got up and talk, but here's the crux of it all. One of the attendants came up to me and go, "You know, this connection networking, that it's so wonderful. That person over there I've been trying to see. Now I just walk across the room, go and say hello, and then it really brings everyone together. And our film industry is going to keep growing. You all know that, and they now all understand. So, tour of the QPAC Lyric Theatre. One had a look. That's the existing one. I think is it. Yeah, the new one's got scaffolding all over it, but that could be a rendition. But learned a lot of what not to do, and of course learn of what we should do, and so you don't value engineer things out too early. Give an example. There's a space that for auditioning or practice. They thought I'll save money, which is about $6 million, so they deleted it, or they just didn't fit it out. And to retrospective and get that back in, because they go, "Oh no, we need that." That's $27 million. So that really, we've got to learn from that. The other bit is that it's 33 months delayed. So to do our homework well and have it all well designed is crucial. Then I got the opportunity to meet the Junior Council Roundtable. They came to my lounge and asked me questions left, right and centre. It was fantastic. So it was good to work closely with future leaders of our city. And this morning I got up early, and today's show, I'm trying to smile, but I was freezing. I chatted the Today Show with Sarah Abo and 9 News reporter Heidi Murphy, and we talked about, look, they just want a talking head, and we talked about US presidential race, CFMEU allegations, and finally our furry friend got a mention about the dogs. Anyhow, what I'll do is I'll put the whole full interview on Facebook, and if you like it, subscribe. It's not YouTube. All right. Anyhow, the full interview is there. You can watch at your leisure. We won't watch it now. We've got work to do. I move that my mayor's report be welcome and noted. Seconder, Councillor Gates, put the motion to you. All in favour, show your hands. Against, motion carry unanimous. Clarification, members, nil. Business arising from the minutes, nil. Right, this is my favourite part. Presentations. We've got some awards. Over to Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no doubt, Mr. Mayor, that our tourist parks in the city are a jewel in our tourism crown. It's an absolute privilege to come and present these awards, as we do most years, where the Caravan Parks Association of Queensland hold their annual event and acknowledge some of the best leaders in the sector across the nation. For the 4th consecutive year, Gold Coast Tourist Parks have been recognised in front of their peers at the CPAC Annual Industry Awards, which was only held a month or so ago. But the first award winner, the Employee of the Year Award, recognises an employee from within the industry who consistently goes above and beyond during their workday. The industry is home to many hardworking and dedicated employees across all sectors, and this award allows these individuals to be recognised for their commitment and contribution to the industry. And the officer receiving the award is Donna Reynolds from Burleigh Beach Tourist Park. Well done, Donna. Is it Burleigh Beach Tourist Park?
Yeah, that'd be Josh.
Yep. You don't want to do a photo?
Yes, absolutely.
Get up there. Burleigh Beach Tourist Park, mate.
You'll be up there again.
So good. All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask you to stay there. We've got so many awards to give out today. You've got your work cut out for you. The Team of the Year award recognises a team from within the industry who consistently go above and beyond their duties every day. A team may be a ground staff or a housekeeping team or an administration team or a management group who keep the grounds tidy, the front office, the cabins, facilities, everyone who benefits from the business through their hard work and dedication, and they always ensure that guests are raving about the park that they're a part of. There was only a couple of points between the top 3 award submissions this year, Mr. Mayor. So the Caravan Parks of Queensland judges decided to allocate a gold, silver and a bronze award for this Team of the Year. And we have the team, the officers receiving awards in this category are Brooke Turner, who's the park manager, or Brooke Turner and Matt McDonald, who are the park managers at Broadwater Tourist Park. Broadwater Tourist Park might be Councillor Patterson.
Another Brooke.
The next award, Mr. Mayor, is the Outstanding Host Award winner, and this award recognises the Caravan Park and its staff that provide amazing service to each and every guest that walks through the door. Exceptional hospitality is something to be proud of, and it is a park feature it's a park. I'm not sure this is written correctly, but this is a park feature that is appreciated and regularly commented on by guests. This award is presented to a caravan park that has received the most positive and consistent feedback about their service, highlighting that they are the most outstanding host. And the officers receiving the awards today are Scott Eastdown and Adrian Eastdown from Kirra Beach Tourist Park.
Thank you.
Not sure if I'm reading these in order, Mr. Mayor, but we'll see how we go here. The next award I have is the Tidy Park Award. This award recognises those parks who have consistently immaculate presentation, regardless of the level of facilities they offer their guests. The Tidy Park Award allows CPAC members to be recognised by their peers for their amazingly tidy park. It was a bit of giveaway in the name of the award, that it's about tidy parks. This award is presented to a park that has beautifully presented caravan park that consistently gets positive guest feedback based on its presentation and cleanliness. My family is staying there right now. So I probably had to disclose that conflict of interest earlier. I'm sorry. I only went to dinner last night at the Talabudra Surf Club just with my family staying at this park. Tim Pearson, Tanya Pearson, Scott Eastdown and Adrian Eastdown from Talabudra Creek Tourist Park are the awardees here. Valley. Is that you, Josh? Yes? Well played. Well, it's very tidy. I saw it yesterday. All right. The next award we have is the People's Choice Silver Award. This award recognises parks based on ReviewPro's Global Review Index, an online reputation score from major travel agencies and review sites. It celebrates great visitor experiences, exceptional customer service, and consistently exceeding guest expectations. The winners of this silver award acknowledged at there was the CIAA award, I believe, is Rebecca Morgan, Peter Wilson, Gary Baldwin, and Amanda Clark from the Ocean Beach Tourist Park. Gary.
So this award is Australia-wide, so it's second Australia-wide in terms of guest experience.
Wow, that's so awesome. So good.
Well done.
Well done. The next award I have here is also a CIAA award, and it's the Future Leaders Award. The Future Leaders Award recognises and rewards dedication and outstanding achievements from the industry's up-and-comers, and in this case, it's Brooke Turner, the park manager at Broadwater Tourist Park. Well done, Brooke.
We're so lucky to have Brooke in our industry, so congratulations.
Well done, Brooke. And the final award I have here is the Outstanding Host Award, a highly commended award. It's another CPAC award. The Burleigh Beach Tourist Park continuously engage with guests at every stage of their holiday to provide the best customer service and in-park experiences that are unique, engaging, and create a sense of community. Scott Berryman, the park contractor at Burleigh Beach Tourist Park, has been awarded this highly commended award. Mr. Mayor, well done to all the awardees today. That's the list.
Okay.
We're in a weird order.
No, we go to 9.3 first.
Do it in order. But yeah, they
All right. While we're in the awards mode, we'll go to 9.3, okay? And Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to acknowledge, obviously, the award winners just presented, but many of our city officers throughout the whole city do a great work, so it's not just these awards, so we always got to acknowledge all our officers in our great city. It was an honour to represent the City of Gold Coast at the Australian Council of Local Government 2024 National Awards at Parliament House on the 4th of July 2024. The City received this reward in recognition of our active school travel program. The City's active school travel team worked very hard on delivering this program, so congratulations to the team and their efforts on behalf of the community. This program encouraged students for primary schools, students to walk and ride to school in a safe manner. We have now 29 schools across the Gold Coast participating in this program. Not only does it help take cars off the roads, but it also has environmental and health benefit for our growing community. This program is a perfect example of how our local government can undertake practical, proactive grassroots initiatives to improve the lives of our residents and protect our environment. Again, I'd like to congratulate our schools, parents, students, and our council team who worked together to make this program so successful. I'd like to ask Eamon McKay and Anne-Marie Ward to receive the award.
Okay, 9.2, we have a presentation, creating a world-class, heart safe city on the Gold Coast. Let me invite Renaud Appeal from the Cardiac Responder Group to give us a presentation.
Clicker. Well, good morning and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors and all here. Great, thanks so much. It's my great pleasure to talk about an issue that's very close to my heart. I've been in this industry for 18 years and I'm proud to say that our technology has been involved with saving 75 lives. And as a resident of the Gold Coast, I'm also very passionate about how we can make cities embrace the idea of becoming heart safe, because no one really disputes the benefit today of AEDs or defibs or defibrillators. And for those that may not know, and very briefly, we all hopefully have a healthy heart in the centre of our chest, and that heart has a pulse. And to create that pulse, there are two key elements. There is what we call the mechanical side of the heart, which is the plumbing and the pumping operation of the heart. But there is also the electrical side of the heart, from the brain to the heart. When someone suffers a heart attack, that's usually a mechanical problem. Pain in the centre of the chest, tingling in the arm and jaw, shortness of breath, but there are warning signs. And they usually get themselves to a hospital. But in the case of cardiac arrest, that is an electrical problem. And there are no warning signs. And the patient is immediately unconscious and dead within minutes. And what we must do is treat this heart, which most commonly is referred to as ventricular fibrillation, that's not beating normally. And we must defibrillate that heart very quickly. For each minute of delay in treating that heart, we lose 10% survival rate. So we know from hospital studies, if we defib someone in the first minute, 90% survive. 2 minutes, 80%. 3 minutes, 70%. So you get my drift. The longer it takes, the less chance of survival. And we in Australia have probably, we estimate about 33,000 deaths a year from out of hospital cardiac arrest. And I've estimated in the Gold Coast from Queensland ambulance data and census data, it's between 500 and 1,000 a year. Now, we can't get to all of them, but what I'm excited to present to you today is a way to get to probably 10 to 15% of them in public places. I'm just going to let you watch a brief video.
In the United States, more than 350,000 sudden cardiac arrests occur each year. They can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time, and require immediate action. ZAPSTAN's mission is to enable everyone to respond to these emergencies, dramatically increasing survivability through access to smart defibrillator technology. ZAPSTAN helps people act quickly. At the push of a button, local 911 is alerted and an AED is made available. A GPS signal directs authorities to the exact location of the device. Meanwhile, the user follows a series of basic instructions to guide them in using the device, ensuring life-saving support can be provided until help arrives. With AEDs helping to almost double survivals of sudden cardiac arrest, ZAPSTAN casts a safety net over communities, helping save time and lives in an emergency. Find out more at zapstan.com.
At the centre of the technology, and this is really important to understand, an AED is just an electronic device, okay? But that's not enough. What we really need is a coordinated emergency response, with an AED, of course, at the centre of it. With the technology here, there are 4 key elements. It's our ability to monitor remotely the health of the AED, the emergency use of the AED, the location of the AED, and the presence of the AED. We actually did a reliability study that showed we take many people don't know that 1 in 5 AEDs fail. You may be surprised to hear that number. But the US enacted federal legislation back in 2000 under Clinton. So we had a massive proliferation of AEDs in the United States. So we now have longitudinal studies that show a 22% failure rate of AEDs. So it's important we overcome that. And so with the technology that we have for you to look at, we radically reduce that risk of failure, which is obviously critical to any sort of public access deployment. We've worked closely with the community programs group to get data and information on how we would go about what would be our approach to a city like the Gold Coast in deploying AEDs. I've talked to you about our technology. It is patented technology. We've saved 75 lives to date. I didn't bring another video, but we've also launched this product in the United States. The city of Frisco in Texas, which is the fastest growing city in America. It's one of these satellite tech hubs outside of Dallas. Very innovative city, have deployed this technology in their city. And there's a lot of other cities in North Texas following suit. We also took on board with our look at the approach. The AED guidelines or DFib guidelines are very important in that they sort of govern quality and safety around deployment of AEDs, and particularly in workplaces and public spaces. So I talked a bit about a coordinated emergency response. These are the key elements. You have to have 24/7 reliability and access. Tragically, having been in this business, there's great news, but there's also very sad news. I remember getting a call from a widow in Perth who tragically had just lost her husband at a beach where he was rescuing one of their children. Long story short, he needed the defibrillator, and it was locked in a cabinet with a code and stuck in it for 7 minutes. So it's really important when you look at something mission critical, life saving, that you pay a lot of attention to the detail. Okay. So 24/7 reliability and access, you can't be locking these up. We integrate directly to WWO as part of this coordinated emergency response, and we pinpoint to ambulance where the patient is, because we don't want to send them to where the AED was stored. We want to send them to where the AED is needed. Camera surveillance, AED mapping is very important, not just for the patient pinpointing, but also, and we'll come to the public education, which is here, public awareness is also really critical to success. On the mapping, I did notice that you all have an app, the Gold Coast app. Very easy to integrate the mapping to an app so people know where these public access AEDs are and become familiar with it. And there's more to that, which I'll come to later. The AWARE principles, this comes from the guidelines. We worked with an independent auditor, Dr. Donald Dingstag, who was the co-author of the guidelines I'm referring to. But the AWARE principles are really key. Basically talks about awareness, the importance of the public, people knowing where the AED is and having the confidence to use it. Equally important. Where is the location? Ensure that it's accessible, never locked away. Record all the information, up-to-date, real-time information, and ensure that the defibrillator is effective, checked and logged daily. We're proposing 3 different applications for the City of the Gold Coast. One is the pedestrian emergency kiosk. Now, in your pedestrian hotspots, I say your, our, my, but when we looked at all the areas, Surfers, Burleigh, Coolangatta, a lot of people. Knowing where your AED is very important, particularly in crowded pedestrian areas. So the Zap Stand emergency kiosk is ideal for those particular sort of places, so people know where they are. The other variation is what's called the Zap Mount, which again, all the same technology underpinning everything, a wall-mounted version and then a post-mounted version, okay? This is the part that's really exciting. We call it Shocktober, which is Defibrillator Awareness Month. We've identified 100 primary schools in the Gold Coast area, and we have a program for 6th grade students that allows, as part of their PDHP syllabus, kids to be taught the simplicity and ease of using an AED as part of their PE curriculum. So we believe as part of this program we should be rolling that out to those schools, in addition to public awareness activities through sporting clubs, sporting grounds, and pretty much on the back of a lot of existing sporting activities. Another video.
Some of you may not know, but we're losing 2 plane loads of people every day to cardiac arrest. And the only thing between you and survival of a cardiac arrest is a working AED. We started Shocktober 10 years ago in Sydney, Australia. This is actually the 10-year anniversary of this event. And the real concept behind ZapStan was this idea of a coordinated emergency response to where you weren't alone.
One of the critical areas that we focus on is supporting public safety.
We want to get the awareness out that you can get an AED and bring it to a park like this, the Clyde-Warren Park and other parks throughout the city of Dallas.
Because it's not just you we need using an AED, but it's the advanced life support that's also critical.
And the reason we're here today is to encourage everyone not to hesitate, not to be scared, not to be intimidated. We would love to show you how easy it is to use.
With this stand being placed in large venues like this and around the city, it's going to allow you to quickly access an AED and be able to save lives on a regular basis.
And thank Verizon, and thank Hunt Energy, and Barnes & Thornburg, and Lockton Insurance for sponsoring this event today. We couldn't do this without them, and so we're very appreciative for their commitment to public health, welfare, and safety.
So our approach to the Gold Coast, we looked at your parklands and foreshore areas as obviously looking at people and where they are, where they play, and came up with an approach, again with data from your community programs team. We identified 95 sports fields. We identified playgrounds, not at sport fields, which were in what we would call busy sort of areas, 433, foreshore watchtowers, 42, and then pedestrian hotspots, we've added Coolangatta to this, about 20. Okay, so this was our way of saying, okay, what is the best way for a city like this to be covered? And that was the answer. I have a map which is a little difficult for you all to see in depth, but you can see the coverage and the extent of that, which is what we were looking for. So having been in this industry for 18 years, I am saying to you with confidence that a program of this scale would save lives in the hundreds over time, okay, from stats that we have. So we did work with an independent audit, and we did look at we didn't audit your existing systems, but we know you do have indoor systems currently in your libraries and public buildings. But we did want to ensure that we conform to the guidelines with regard to the technical specs of the AEDs, location and installation, monitoring, maintenance and training in their use, and incident record keeping, and of course emergency response, where we would be liaising with Queensland Ambulance. A program of this size, and we would estimate, and we're in the 85% neighbourhood, more work needs to be done. It would be around $2.5 million to implement, and annually about $2.2 million to maintain to the level that I've described. A little more work needs to be done with the rollout to schools, and some of the detail with Queensland Ambulance, but I can assure you Ambulance is very supportive across the board for programs like this, because nothing makes them happier than arriving to scene with someone that can be saved, that's alive. So that really concludes what I had to say today, Mr. Mayor and councillors. I'm happy to take any questions. I appreciate your time.
Any questions? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're standing.
Yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor. First of all, as a girl who did up to Year 9 science, I just learnt more about the heart than I've learnt before, so thank you for that. I thank you for this presentation too. It's really, really helpful understanding. I was curious with that accessibility matter, how do you deal with idiots who might want to steal an expensive device but still having it accessible? How's that worked?
Great question, and that's the centerpiece of this product. So we do it in every way possible. So we use surveillance of the unit, we use tracking of the unit, we use lighting, and we use direct connectivity to emergency. So we basically are not saying you're 100% not going to have incidents. You write that into any sort of program of this scale, but we've taken every sort of risk mitigation. And I can say, I always knock on wood when I say this, we've tested these units in places, and it probably because of all the countermeasures that I just mentioned, but also we can say we have not had the issues that you would have expected. So thanks for the question.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for the presentation, Rena.
Thank you.
Outside?
Yeah, so when we do counselling,
Okay.
there'll be one for courtesy.
Okay, we'll do that. Councillors, I thought we'd share that presentation for food for thought. What I want to put to you to take it further, I propose this motion that the Chief Executive Officer bring a report to Lifestyle, Environment and Heritage Committee outlining options for the rollout of defibrillators in public places on the Gold Coast. One. Second, that a report include advice on funding options, including state and federal funding opportunities and grant programs available to support a rollout of defibrillators in public transport. Second, to Councillor Peter Young. Question, Councillor Tozer.
Mr Mayor, look, I think the information presented today, you know, I've had family members who have died through cardiac arrest, so I feel a sense of connection to it. But I'm also concerned about making sure that if my committee is to assess and deal with this report, you know, there are lots of providers. So I would hate to think that we would be captured under some sort of procurement policy piece. Today we've had a presentation from one vendor of one particular service. There's lots of different people who provide services like this, and we might be seen to be unnecessarily advantaging one entity over others. It's very important that your report captures an appropriate analysis of the market and making sure that people understand that when we engage providers, it's not a process that involves them presenting at council and then us striking an agreement. It's through a proper procurement process, because that's how we do our business here at council.
Good point, and the CEO will do that.
Great.
Anyone else? Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried, unanimous. Conflict of interest declaration. I'll go to Councillor O'Neill first.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just felt it prudent to make this conflict of interest declaration. I'll just read it off the screen. The conflict of interest is... Oh, you've actually gone a little bit too... I'll read it from here. The nature of the declarable conflict of interest is I lease an apartment at 8 Churchill Street, Coolangatta, which is in very close proximity to properties that are the subject of a currently lodged MCU application at number 10 Churchill Street, 17 Miles Street, 51 Winston Street, Coolangatta. This is currently in assessment. The nature of the name of the related party would be the residence and body corporate of the Alarm Building at 8 Churchill Street, where I lease the apartment. Nature of the relationship of the related party to the councillor is they are my neighbours. The nature of the related party's interest in the matter is some of these neighbours and body corporate members are submitters in relation to the application. I'm seeking permission to participate in making a decision about the matter because I believe that I am not an owner but lease the apartment, so I do not consider that I would incur either a personal financial gain or loss if the application is approved or refused. I am the Divisional Councillor and have local knowledge of the area and feel that I have an open and persuadable mind in order to take part in a decision. I have not made a submission in relation to this application.
Okay. Can you scroll up the procedure motion, please? All right. Someone want to have a go at the procedure motion, anyone? Councillor Tozer?
Mr Mayor, I'd move that Councillor O'Neill may participate in the decision despite the Councillor's conflict of interest because the matter at hand, is minor and remote. I'll leave it at that. Frankly, I think, Mr Mayor, that the nexus between her leasing a property versus owning a property means that she can't stand to gain or lose by the outcome any more than any other person in that facility.
So on the screen there, it's okay for you?
Yeah, so I'd say, yep, that's great. Leave that all in.
Leave it in. Seconder, Councillor Taylor. Anyone want to speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Councillor O'Neill did not vote. Oh, wait a second. We're going to do a division.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Young, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Curtis, Councillor Hammel, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Gates, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Martin, Councillor Castro, Councillor Doran, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall.
Okay. Motion carried. Councillor Hammel, you got a declaration?
I do, Mr Mayor. So as councillors from the previous term would be aware, and for the benefit of new councillors, I have a conflict of interest that I have always declared in regards to JJ Richards and Sons, who I was previously employed with directly before being elected. I used to make that declaration in the previous term of council as we were considering the appointment of a new collection contract. And during that term, whenever the new collections contract came up, I would raise the conflict with JJ Richards and voluntarily leave the room. The purpose of today's conflict, Mr Mayor, is that with the ARC project moving forward to industry briefing stage, it's become apparent to me, both through some advice from officers but also some advice from the industry, that JJ Richards and Sons may participate in those industry briefings and that there is possibly businesses or technology or groups they have an interest in that will be discussed at those industry briefings, discussed at officer briefings. So I'm seeking early permission today to participate in all those events and participate in the decision-making process in regards to ARC. There's no absolute yet, so it's not suggesting that there is an absolute that JJs will have anything to do with ARC or anything associated with it. It's just a precautionary conflict of interest to make sure that if they're at an industry briefing event or if I'm in an officer briefing and they're raised, that I've got the permission of council to continue to be part of the conversation. All the particulars are up there, Mr Mayor, and I'm happy to take any questions or concerns from councillors.
Okay, can you put up any a procedural motion? There it is there. First questions, anyone? Councillor Peter Young?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hammel. Do you think that our decision today might be benefited, or the public confidence in the process might be benefited by you keeping contemporaneous notes at any of those particular meetings at which JJ Richards partake?
Obviously, Mr Mayor, I'm seeking early permission, and if any councillors wish to add conditions to me doing that, I'd be happy to take that on board, and if that's the will of council. If Councillor Young thinks that would be a reasonable condition to apply, I would be more than happy to accept that.
I'll go to Councillor Gates.
Mr Mayor, I'd be happy to move that Councillor Hammel be permitted to participate in the decision because his expertise in the area of waste management outweighs any perceived conflict of interest in this matter.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Patterson. Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion. Oh, sorry. Division.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Young, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Curtis, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Gates, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Martin, Councillor Castro, Councillor Doran, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Martin, Councillor O'Neill.
Against? Who didn't vote? Councillor Hammel? Okay. Yeah, but that's okay. So motion carried. I'll go to Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Fellow councillors, early this year, several residents met and raised concerns with me relating to the pedestrian safety within the Paradise Point Park, particularly the interaction with the esplanade. Traffic engineers have proposed and created a high-level design for an intersection upgrade for a main street that connects the pedestrian loop from Boat Harbour Park to the esplanade, which, if progressed, may require additional law funding contributions. I'm raising this conflict because I happen to live on the street that connects the main pedestrian loop that is being considered for upgrade. My residence is located 2 blocks back from the intersection. It is not my regular travel route, and I do not believe my benefit would be any greater than that of the general community. Therefore, I'm seeking permission to be involved in ongoing discussions relating to and the decision-making process thereafter, because it is in the best interest of the community.
Okay, there's a potential procedural motion on the screen. Questions first. No question. Move the procedural. On the screen, seconder, Councillor Taylor. Anyone speak against? Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Young, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Hammel, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Gates, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Martin, Councillor Castro, Councillor Doran, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall, Councillor O'Neill.
Against? Councillor Curtis did not vote. Motion carried. No other conflict of interest, not until later on. All right.
Very soon, in fact.
Okay. Look, councillors, 11:07. It's good and healthy to be able to get up and move around and things like that. How about we take a 10-minute break? Are we good with that? So we come back at 11:17. Item 11.1, Councillor Hammel.
Mr Mayor, I would move that the minutes of the Planning and Regulation Committee meeting held on Tuesday, 9 July, covered by recommendations 1 to 11, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Gates. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carry. Councillor Hammel.
Mr Mayor, if I could suggest that we would go to 6.2 to deal with a conflict of interest with Councillor Gates.
Let's go to 6.2. No, you don't want 6.2?
No, not yet. We just received the minutes, but there's a change I would like to.
Oh, okay, we received that. Okay, there's some change. Corrections.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, there's a correction required on page 86 of the report.
86, okay.
It wasn't a foreshadowed motion, it was a changed recommendation for 6.4. And then if you go to page 87, it lists the committee recommendation, but it doesn't have a mover or a seconder. The mover was Councillor Hammel, and I was the seconder. So it's moved Councillor Hammel, seconded Councillor Gates. And the first changed recommendation shouldn't say lost, it should just say lapsed for the want of a seconder.
Lapse, okay. Lapse.
So if those changes could be made, then we can adopt the report before we move to 6.2 for my declaration.
Okay. Okay, you get all that? Okay. Move for adoption of the report, Councillor Hammel. Councillor Gates, seconder?
Yes, sure.
All right. Put the motion to you. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Now we have the correct report. Councillor Hammel.
Again, Mr Mayor, would suggest we'd move to 6.2 for Councillor Gates' conflict of interest.
That's what you said. Okay. 6.2, is that a good way to go?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. It's on the screen, and I made the declaration at Planning Committee.
Okay. So what's the story with Logan? How come they can do it at committee, General Council, and we got to keep repeating ourselves at full council?
Through the chair, Mr Mayor, I have followed up this matter and conferred with the department, and they have agreed with my conclusion that whilst we've been applying best practice to date, it is unnecessary to repeat the resolution at council that has already been made at committee, confirming that the councillor has permission to participate in the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So in future, we don't need that duplication, subject to the chair's direction.
Yeah. So do we need to do it today? Don't worry.
If we just acknowledge that the declaration was made and the resolution passed at committee, that's all we need to do today.
Well, yeah, Councillor Tozer.
Mr Mayor, I just want to clarify that advice. It occurred to me that what was said was that if the members of a committee resolve that a member of that committee does not or can participate in decision making, that the council doesn't further have to endorse that view of a matter subsequent. That seems like bad advice, Mr Mayor. I'm so sorry, because the committee can't make a council decision, it can only make a recommendation to council. So my question is, can you clarify what you said and make sure I'm not wrong, because it sounds wrong?
Through the chair, I confirm that what your understanding is what I said, and that is correct. Under the Act, whether the resolution is passed by the eligible councillors at a committee or a council meeting, it is appropriate for all future decision making. And I have double-checked this with the department. I'm happy to provide you with written
I'll go with the department.
confirmation.
Yeah, of course, Mr
I can
Mayor.
circulate the department's position if
Please,
through the chair.
that would be great.
Circulate it. We'll go with the department. Councillor Gates, based on that, do you need to do anything?
I think the General Counsel suggested that for my declarations today, I just make them and advise that they were confirmed.
Okay,
My
so
participation
can we just say that there it is there? Right?
Correct.
And we put a note that was confirmed voted upon for participation at the committee. So that should be that recommendation of voting from the committee is accepted by this full council.
Yep, and no further resolution is required today.
And no further resolution required today. Anyone against that?
No. That advice will be provided to us as councillors, because I would that would be great to have
Yeah,
that.
she said that.
That's what she said? Great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gates, anything else?
Well, I have two declarations.
Do you do it in the committee?
On 6.3, which I also did at committee and
All right.
gained committee's endorsement of participation.
Okay,
So
and we accept the committee's recommendation on that. And what's the other one?
that's all, Mr. Mayor. There were only the three to this
Okay,
week.
only three. Okay, right. Any other declaration from anyone else? So we're free to roll. Councillor Hammel.
Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering. I think we've already pulled out 6.2. So if we want to deal with 6.2,
No,
maybe
we don't. If it's nothing unusual, we can keep that. Unless you want to delve into 6.3 and amend anything.
I don't, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if Councillor Patterson, as area councillor, wanted to talk possibly.
No, she doesn't. And any other items that you want to deal with separately? Not from you. All right, Councillor Martin.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, two things. I just wanted to clarify, and I agree with the clarification from Councillor Gates on the motion of 6.4. I just want to make sure, I did call a division on that, so I want to make sure division is captured in that, in those committee minutes, apologies. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to deal with 6.4 separately. I'd like to move a motion, which is a change recommendation.
Councillors, we go to 6.4. Councillor Hammel, do you want to move the committee's recommendation?
I would, Mr. Mayor.
Move. Seconder. Councillor Gates. All right. Before you talk on that, there's a change recommendation, is it, that you want?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor, and I've shared that with the Chamber support to put on screen.
Is it a change recommendation or
I believe it's a change recommendation, which is a refusal of the development application.
So it's a foreshadow?
I believe I was seeking to move a change recommendation prior to the committee recommendation. So I believe
where we're at now,
sure.
Let me have a look at that. Is that substantially different to the... So it's a refusal, so it's a shadow. Okay, I take that as a shadow because it's substantially opposite to the recommendation.
Sure.
Okay,
sure, Mr. Mayor.
Shadow motion there. Councillor Hammel, would you like to speak on the motion?
I would if I could, please, Mr. Mayor. So, councillors, again, we had a lot of discussion at committee in regards to a development application, Jefferson Lane, Palm Beach. Because of a lack of time at committee, we didn't allow a lot of time for backwards and forwards and debate. So, wanted to speak a little bit more on this item today. Mr. Mayor, I wanted to start by reaffirming a position that I spoke to in committee around submissions. We had received some correspondence from members of the Palm Beach community from the 843 round raising concerns that they didn't feel like pro forma submissions were given the same weighting as individual submissions. So I wanted to make it again very clear today that every properly made submission is considered by officers, pro forma or individual. It's a submission. Under the Act, it's a submission and it has to be considered by officers as such, and that is what occurs. Mr. Mayor, while that is the case, I would like to stress the point again today that submissions are not about a quantitative exercise. It's not a situation anywhere in the Act where the number of submissions is a determining factor. So 1 submission, 100 submissions, 10,000 submissions, it's not about the overall number, it's about the content and about the impact.
No, do the shuffle.
Public notification period, Mr. Mayor, allows the community to raise concerns about the impact of the development, both negative and positive. It is an opportunity, in their own words, to describe what you like, dislike about the development and the impacts you have a concern with the development on you, your family, your community. So, Mr. Mayor, while I absolutely respect the fact that we received 1,093 submissions and 977 of these were properly made objections, I would make the point again, it's not a quantitative exercise, it's about the content. Which, Mr. Mayor, I would talk to that the pro forma submissions were what I would call a shotgun exercise. It was a broad It doesn't meet 3.2.2. It doesn't meet any of the 50% uplift criteria. There is very little individualised content in those submissions where it spoke about the impact that person had a concern with on their family, them, or their community. I would encourage submitters, I would encourage future submitters that while the shotgun approach is fine, if you took the opportunity to individualise it a little bit more and attempt to explain for city officers, for councillors, and possibly for the court, the impact and how you don't believe a criteria or a provision has been met would be much more beneficial, especially in assisting officers understand the concerns you have. Mr Mayor, in nearly all 977 of the objections raised and at a lot of time spent at committee, we discussed 3.2.2, which is city shape and urban transformation. Good slip of the tongue. Yeah, aptly named. Shouldn't have had that cup of tea beforehand. We spent a significant amount of time at committee at both this round and also at round 843 discussing this provision in City Plan. And as mentioned, nearly all 977 objections specifically raised this provision. Mr Mayor, to assist councillors and also make legal advice available to the greater community, I requested legal advice be prepared for council. This advice was circulated by email to all councillors on Thursday, and if you would allow, Mr Mayor, I would table a copy of that advice today, so it then forms part of the minutes and is therefore available to the public. Mr Mayor, the legal advice in regards to 3.2.2, city, shape and urban transformation, backs our officer assessment and their recommendation that buildings above 32 metres, which is the technical height for a high-rise, are not excluded from Palm Beach. The legal advice makes it very clear that if the intent of City Plan was to exclude high-rises, then the wording would have been different to allow that to occur. Mr Mayor, the summary points in regards to this application, it's a height increase from 29 metres at the code height to 36.8 metres, an increase in dwellings from 8 to 10, an increase in total bedrooms from 33 to 41. It's a minor increase in the density from 1 bedroom per 33.3 metres to 1 bedroom per 26.8 metres. A minor increase in the ground floor site coverage from 42.5% to 44%. Importantly, the new levels proposed on top have been further set back, and the site coverage of those levels is 28.5% and 26.7%. So it's not just adding more to the box. At the top, it's been feathered in to make sure that impact is reduced. We've got an increase in car parking rates from 19 spaces to 21. There's a reduction in communal open space, but a fairly significant increase in private open space for every dwelling. There's no major changes to the setbacks from the building, but quite a lot of time was spent by officers changing what those interfaces look like with the neighbouring properties. We've seen reduction in fence heights, we've seen increased landscaping, we've seen movement and heights to make sure the impacts on adjoining neighbours has well and truly been improved. And Mr Mayor, again, we have seen some changes made to the overall architectural form, which I would agree with the city architect's advice, has made this building a much better example of the kind of architecture we were seeking and the kind of architecture we demand through the 50% uplift test. Councillors, this application once again has been through a very detailed and thorough assessment by our development assessment team. I would make the point again that is an assessment that has considered all relevant court decisions to help inform their judgment, and I would urge all councillors to support the officer recommendation of approval for this height lift at Palm Beach.
Okay, speaking against the motion, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, 107 Jefferson Lane is located on the absolute beachfront of Palm Beach. The property's relationship with the beach is unique, as the property's boundary actually extends over the dunes and onto the sand. The local character of the site is obviously rare and only comparable to other absolute beachfront blocks in the local area. The surrounding beachfront properties are a mix of 2 to 4 stories, and more broadly, the local area is characterised by low to mid-rise, especially when viewed from the beach, with some rare constructions over 29, but positioned along the Gold Coast Highway. I do want to take the opportunity to thank the councillors that gave up their time to join me on a site walk around to the area and observe the site from the beach perspective, which we weren't able to see in committee. Unfortunately, no one stayed for a surf though. But for the residents of the wider suburbs that don't have the privilege of living on beachfront living, the beach is the main active and open space area, and the presence of the buildings, especially those on the absolute beachfront, have a significant impact on the beach amenity, especially in the afternoons when it comes to casting shadows. In fact, Jefferson Lane properties are so close to the beach, there's no walkways, there's no ocean way, there's no bike paths along the beach, there's no grass foreshore, and even the A-line seawall is actually positioned within property boundaries. Also, the only vehicle access is from Jefferson Lane, which is also unique. Being a small, narrow street, it's one way, it has no bike lanes, it actually has no footpaths on either side. The point being is Jefferson Lane is not typical of the zoning of a medium density area in an urban neighbourhood, which are usually highly connected. They have active travel and abundance of public transport to cope with the increase in density. The proposal is not in alignment with City Plan Specific Outcome 3.3.2.17, which states, in relation to urban neighbourhoods and medium density residential, streets are characterised by high quality walking and cycling paths, street trees and local streets for shared car and bike use. A legible built form and network of interconnected thoroughfares make it easy to get around. These characteristics are more aligned with the properties directly located on the Gold Coast Highway. However, I note they share the same density and zoning, and no doubt this anomaly was the key driver behind the attempt to lower the heights in this specific area under Amendment Packages 2 and 3, which we do know that they were not approved. While there's already an approval to build a code-accessible development on the site, it's the new other change which has triggered this impact accessible application that I'm asking councillors to refuse. I acknowledge that sometimes plans change, but I'm deeply concerned about the ongoing pattern of development applications that come through as code accessible with an oversupply of car parking, followed quickly by another change. However, this other change is seeking a height uplift beyond the 29 metres, where the proposed extra car parks disappear, with some cosmetic facade improvements and some minor open space changes. This approach, if exploited, could seek to circumvent the rigour of impact accessible applications and proper community feedback, which allows council to drive the highest quality outcomes from the outset rather than make amendments to an existing project. As, in the case of this proposal, it's already well under construction. It means reasonable requests by officers could and have not been adopted because the concrete's already been poured, and therefore alternative outcomes had to be sought. And it's an approach that I don't think we should reward and we should be reviewing in the future. So right now, councillors, based on the approach, I'm sure you are considering what's the difference, rather than assessing the application in full as a standalone proposal, which should and is what must be considered. The full proposed scale, bulk, height back, setbacks, built form and relationship to the surrounding area are all the elements that must be considered, not just the height increase from the former proposal, which was approved under a less stringent criteria being code accessible. I note that since committee, city officers have procured and provided councillors yesterday with legal advice interpreting the city shape provision in the city plan. And I acknowledge the advice states that the city provision in isolation does not mean we should look no further and reject the development on that basis alone. However, it doesn't state that this clause is irrelevant and should be not considered within the broader context of the city plan as a whole, and in relation to whether a development reinforces local identity. The advice goes on to say that a potential 50% height uplift may be allowed, quote, if a development application can demonstrate that under section 3.3.2.19 is achieved through a rigorous assessment against those provisions. So while an application may be permitted, it is not guaranteed approval just by making the application. So it is my firm view that this application fails that assessment criteria, which every condition of that assessment criteria must be met. Every condition must be met of 3.3.219. I don't believe this application meets the criteria of that section B, C and G. B being a reinforced local identity and sense of place, C being a well-managed interface with and relationship and impact on nearby, development, including the reasonable amenity expectations of residents, nearby residents, and G, protection of important elements of local character or scenic amenity, including views from popular outlooks and city significant natural features. This is due to the local character being predominantly low to mid-rise. The proposal would permit an incongruous addition to the skyline, as we saw with a similar application not far in the Nexus development. And given the site location and proximity to the beach and the significant shading that the impact that the development will have on the open beach and loss of amenity is relied upon to support development in the area. Also, the proposal does not comply with the medium density residential code overall outcome 6.2.2.2 number 2B, as the proposal results in a form, scale and intensity that is inappropriate to the zone, as it will contribute to an undesirable building height pattern outside the intended outcome of the building form of the area. Lastly, councillors, to wrap this up, I would like to refer to page 85 of the minutes, but I have provided a hard copy for all councillors around the submissions of objections in the area of Palm Beach. 977 properly made objections from all areas of Palm Beach. This sends a clear message that the people of the local area have determined this proposal does not reflect the local character and identity of Palm Beach, which is a fundamental principle of 3.3.2.19. The legal advice provided to councillors stated under condition 3, which has been provided and will go in the minutes. But point number 3, I quote, "It is important to note that the planning scheme is where reasonable community expectations for development are to be found, and the planning scheme is the reflection of the public interest in appropriate development of land." So I ask you, if 977 members of the community have told us this fails their expectations, how can we ignore that? And I ask councillors, if the same amount of objections were raised in your area, how would you respond? And it does strike me that as we propose to implement a new city planning scheme calling for extensive community consultation and feedback on future developments in our city, that if we fail to listen to almost 1,000 residents on a local proposal, what message does that send to the broader community, and in particular the people of Palm Beach, that we are asking to buy into that consultation process?
Well said.
Yep. Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director, or EGM, sorry.
No director in this chamber.
Okay, thank you. Can you confirm for me that it's not City Plan but the Act that dictates the criteria that officers are required to adhere to in assessing other change applications?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Gates, that's correct. So we're bound by that.
Yeah. I make that point, Mr. Mayor, because the officers have no discretion about considering an other change application, so there's not an opportunity to make it happen in the first instance if one is submitted.
Okay. All right. Speaking for the motion. Beg your pardon? No good. Okay. For the motion, Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to rise today to confirm that I'll be voting in favour of this application and in support of the recommendation that was endorsed by the committee, subject to the changes that we made in relation to the visitors' car parking. I decided to put my hand up to be a councillor, not to duck the hard decisions. This has been evidenced so far by my voting record, some will know. It would be easy for me to sit here quietly and let my vote be the voice on this issue, but I feel like it's important that I raise my voice as well. I am not pro-development, I'm not anti-development. I'm certainly pro-providing more car parking, which I'm sure everyone here would have endorsed so far, but I'm for sensible and better development. This application is acceptable under the city plan, as outlined. The council town planners who do this every day have deemed it so. We have legal advice on the matters raised by Councillor Martin. The local councillor raised reasonable questions at committee. He's done so before. He's being a voice for his community, and in my view, he's doing an excellent job. But again, this is permitted under the plan. It doesn't make sense for councillors, in my view, to vote that this is part of the plan and we need to ensure that we're applying it appropriately. As a ratepayer, I don't want my rates wasted on legal fees defending a decision that council experts deem to be in accordance with our city plan. I view every case that comes before us with an open mind. I review the recommendation and all the material and the community views and arrive at what I believe to be the best decision. That appears to me, in my short term, to be a reasonable process. I personally don't like aspects of this development. I don't like the way the developers have come back to seek a change to an approved DA. I do think the height on the Palm Beach foreshore is problematic. But as I said, the city plan allows it. It only doesn't allow it if you ignore aspects of the Act. But there is another element to this that I want to be considered. Too often, councils are requested to change its approvals to meet the challenge of a feasibility problem. This creates community resentment. I say this to the property sector. Where is your innovation? Where is your response to the often commented construction pricing challenges? Too often, others are asked to find your solutions with application changes and customers or home buyers forced to simply pay more for an apartment on the Gold Coast. It's time that the property sector shows some leadership in innovation and technology to source alternative ways to build safe and high quality products at an affordable price. Where is the Property Council? Perhaps they should shelve their next report telling us that prices are going up and look for some solutions. This is not a Gold Coast challenge. I'm putting to the sector and to Queensland, but this is a national challenge. Demonstrate you're working on this problem and maybe, just maybe, the community will begin to view the industry as a real partner in the efforts to address our housing supply crisis.
Okay. Speaking against the motion, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At committee, I was, when I am considering a matter like this in committee and at council, I look through it through the lens of, do we have a legal argument that will stack up in court? When I was in the committee meeting, I couldn't get to that position. I have since gone back and reread, and I have changed my position, and I'll explain why. With regard to the City Plan Strategic Framework, 3.3.2.19, I am particularly persuaded by the arguments provided with legal advice from Shan Taylor Lawyers. They picked up every specific element of that framework, but I just want to, and there were numerous ones where I saw issue, but I just want to raise a couple of points. And as Councillor Martin noted, we have to, for this higher bar, we have to make sure every single one of these is met for us to be able to approve. I'll give you two that I'm quite sure hasn't. The first one, a reinforced local identity and sense of place. I'll just read this out. So I'll just go first to the protection for important element of local character. The settlement has seen built form transition down to the beach with lower building heights more prominent on beachfront sites. This change in building height patterns also responds to the narrow nature of Jefferson Lane. Now, I need to consider that and what has happened previously, but also I'm aware that when we're looking at the elements of local character, we're looking at for what's envisioned for that. So for that, I look to what was the last council decision on this area in the city plan amendments, and that was for a significant drop from what it already is. So when I laid both of those matters, that measure has not been met, and that is reason and grounds to refuse it itself. The second one was the proposed changes to the development result in a poorly managed interface and significantly impacts the neighbours. We were presented at committee that with the boundary landscaping that was presented and proposed with the new interface, the gardeners of this place would have to actually go on to the neighbouring property and get permission to be able to garden it, so for the landscaping to look like what was presented in that recommendation. So there were further ones, particularly on shadow as an element on the beach and the bulk, but I think with just those two, I will be not supporting this today. Thank you.
Just on the legal advice, is that the council legal advice, or what is that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is the legal advice. It's a legal submission on behalf of the neighbouring resident, and it was presented with legal advice to that neighbouring resident from Shan Taylor Lawyers. So that submission that was presented was from that lawyer group. So legal advice to the submitter.
Councillor Gates?
Mr. Mayor, there was also separate legal advice from Norton Rose Fulbright that was delivered to all councillors.
Okay. All right. Speaking for the motion, Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I do this a little bit reluctantly because I know the effort that Councillor Josh Martin has actually put into looking at this application. And I was one of those councillors who was on the beach with him. It was freezing, by the way. But I still think at a code accessible height in that area, it's probably not in character. At code accessible height, where you don't, the residents, the nearby residents don't get to make any objection. And that is why I certainly supported a lowering of height in that area, because I think exactly what Councillor Martin said, I think applies. But that's unfortunately not what we're working with. The state has refused those amendments, and I think, and to the detriment of Palm Beach. So maybe the state needs to take some responsibility here as well. I think it's really poor that they didn't, approve those amendments, and now we're stuck with this. We're stuck with for the next 3 or 4 years until we get a new city plan up. My aim in the new city plan is to make sure that some of those amendments do get through, not only for Palm Beach, but for my area as well, because under the current city plan, what we see going up sometimes isn't what really should be going up, and that's certainly the case. So I do feel for Councillor Martin, but in the same vein, I really applaud our council officers and the work that they put into assessing these these applications. And I totally agree with Councillor Doran that we don't want to be in court every 5 minutes. I'm not sure if the shadowing, and maybe one of the maybe Alicia could answer this, whether shadowing with another 2 extra stories on does make a difference on the beach at Palm Beach at 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm not really convinced of that. But I think even at code accessible height, they're all 2 or 3 stories along there at the moment, and that will change probably over the next couple of years until we make some amendments or a new city plan is up. But I'm sorry, Councillor Martin, I do feel your pain. I have it in my area as well, but you do have to have absolute reasons for refusal when you get to planning court. Thank you.
Okay. Motion against, Councillor Tozer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not on the planning committee, but I took the opportunity to turn up to planning committee this week, actually to kind of see how this was going to play out. And there's a particular element of the planning scheme that I think is relevant here, and it's the set of 8 criteria that determine whether an uplift can occur or not. And the Norton Rose Fulbright legal advice talks to us a little bit about that at the end, and point 3 it talks about, and Councillor Martin quite rightly read it out. In addition, it's important to note that the planning scheme is where reasonable community expectations for development are to be found, and the planning scheme is the reflection of the public interest in the appropriate development of land. And so, at least to some extent, if we're getting legal advice that's saying that we should effectively ignore these 900 people and think about the planning scheme when we're talking about reasonable community expectation, I think we're missing the point. We shouldn't see the officer's interpretation of the city plan in exclusivity. And I think that's where I'm really interested here. The same legal advice says that local identity and sense of place are broad concepts and will vary on a case-by-case basis, depending on the specific facts and circumstances. And Councillor Martin has outlined specific facts and circumstances that relate here. Jefferson Lane doesn't have pathways. The eastern side of Jefferson Lane, in front of it, doesn't, you know, some of the A line's actually on private property. There's no pathway on the other side. There is no public infrastructure really on either side that people can kind of use to get up and down the street. And so that idea of local identity and sense of place can't be like the rest of Palm Beach. And the officers have actually done a really good job in this committee, because there's another matter that is coming up a bit later in item 6.7 where Marlin Place has a dual occupancy, and the local identity and sense of place in that application is just the street. And if I remember correctly, there might be 20 houses in the street. It's a little cul-de-sac. And they've just said that the local identity and sense of place for that application is just the street. In this application, they've set aside a 1.5 kilometre area that's the local identity and sense of place. And when we asked some questions about that in committee, Mr Mayor, the response was there was a legal precedent set in a matter I think was known as Nexus, where the magistrate or the presiding judge or whoever it was presiding over that case said that council's view of local identity and sense of place was too narrow, and therefore we lost a refusal, or we didn't get the outcome we were seeking because the interpretation of local identity and sense of place was too narrow. And frankly, I think we have, as council officers, I think council have gone too broad, much too broad. The idea that local identity and sense of place in Palm Beach for this specific application should capture a 1.5 kilometre and 800 more walking distance south and north of the site, it's too much. I appreciate we don't want to lose in court again, but there's somewhere in between. And frankly, I think Jefferson Lane is in between. On the western side of Jefferson Lane, up to the Palm Beach Neighbourhood Centre, in the Palm Beach Neighbourhood Centre itself, you've got these high rises. There's really very little limit for height in that precinct. And then between that precinct and the Jefferson Lane itself, there's high rises. I get it. Palm Beach is going through that process, and I was very supportive of us generally lowering the heights in Palm Beach that ultimately got rejected by the state government. But I think there is a separate identity and sense of place east of Jefferson Lane. It has some unique variables that Councillor Martin has very clearly lined out, and I think it would be wrong of us to look at this application and consider the legal advice that happened in the Nexus matter and say, well, we got it wrong that time and therefore we should broaden it so much. Because frankly, council officers aren't doing that anywhere else. In fact, in Marlin Place, they're just letting it be 20 houses. We can, as leaders in this chambers, make a call on what is local identity and sense of place. And frankly, we're called to. This legal advice says the planning scheme is where reasonable community expectations for development are. These 922 people are telling us what we should think. They're telling us that it's wrong. Local identity and sense of place is not represented in this application. And frankly, I think we need to narrow, but not so much as Nexus, but narrow that area of local identity and sense of place. And it comes back to those couple of elements we talked about. There are no pathways. The A line's on private property. There's no Ocean Way at this point in time. This is effectively defined as a high rise in a place where the only other high rises east of Jefferson Lane are one resolved under delegation, special delegation, not even under delegation.
If you don't address the chair, only I'll sit you down. You can't have conversation. Everything goes through the chair.
Of course, Mr. Mayor. I didn't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but just collecting my points.
I'll remind you.
Of course, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. Under special delegation, which I think is an appropriate and legal way to deal with the matter, but really does circumvent the feedback of a local councillor and the feedback of a proper and transparent process. It is an unfortunate circumstance, and it's an obligation that I don't have to carry. Mr. Mayor, you and the Chair of Planning have to carry that obligation, but it doesn't provide strong confidence to the community that we are transparent in the way that we resolve these interpretations of quite particular things, where the legal advice we have here says that local identity and sense of place are broad concepts and will vary on a case-by-case basis. In this case, we actually do have the benefit of community feedback on what that means. We have the benefit of the local councillor being able to provide their view. We have a transparent impact accessible application process, which allows us to be much more analytical in the way that we deal with it, much more than a special delegation approval. And frankly, that the only other...
Mr. Mayor, can I make a point of order, please?
Yes.
I simply want to make it clear that the special delegation process is often limited by timeframes, and there is a need for special delegations in those circumstances. And the divisional councillor is always offered input. So I would hate for the wider community to think that we are not being transparent in that special delegation process, because it's a requirement of the Act that we meet the timeframes. And that's one of the main reasons that special delegations occur.
Good point.
It's a great point, Mr. Mayor, and I'll absolutely concede that point. I think that the challenge that we had in this situation is the matter was in caretaker mode, and that had a different layer amongst it. And every councillor in this chambers would know that on certain occasions, the availability of a special delegation is leveraged by applicants in order to get different outcomes. Sometimes that has been in the public domain. Applicants have told me privately at times that they have leveraged different seasons.
Can you explain the delegation that there's no leverage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So special delegation process, we do use it when council's not meeting. So we use it in those times where there is no formal full council meeting. Our officers, we put our recommendations through on the timeframes and obviously other ones that need to be decided. So there's definitely no leverage from our side. It is literally the workload of the team and where those applications sit in the timeframes.
Yeah, and as a person, one of the councillors who sits there and listens to the delegation, I don't take anything on to go, all right, this is a chance to bypass any and give leverage to a developer.
Of course, Mr. Mayor.
Right, so,
Mr. Mayor, I'm not presuming to undermine your authority or your independence in making decision making. My claim was that some developers have told me that they time their applications sometimes in order to take advantage of those periods where council doesn't meet. It's not every case, but sometimes that occurs, and I can only speak from personal experience, but some developers have said that they'll do that sometimes. Not about the officers, obviously it's nothing to do with the officers, but some developers have said they do that. I can't do any other than say that developers have told me that.
All right, well...
So, may I continue, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I've paused it for a minute. You want to name those developers so I can say hello to them?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to name those developers. That's not the substance of the matter before us today.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, finally, I think councillors need to make a very clear picture here, and they need to make a call on whether this application reinforces local identity and sense of place. I don't believe it does. I believe it's incumbent upon me as a councillor to make a call on the interpretation of that element of the city plan. I think that the council officers have demonstrated that this idea of local identity and sense of place is dealt with, just like this legal advice says, on a case-by-case basis, and it's open to interpretation. Frankly, I think the interpretation that the council officers have made in this matter is too broad. I think it's too broad, and the example of it being too broad is the other matter that we're thinking about today, which is 6.7, where they've used a much smaller area to determine local identity and sense of place, and councillors should make that call today. We should narrow the focus, not so much as we did with Nexus, but we should narrow the focus. And if we do that, frankly, this application should not be met with an approval. It should be refused.
Okay. Clarification, Councillor Hammel.
Mr. Mayor, only because Councillor Tozer pointed to it at least a dozen times, the comparison to Marlin, I think it's probably only fair that we allow officers to explain why the analysis area of the Marlin application was different to this one, to give context, if that's okay for you, to Mr. Moran.
Mr. Moran.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the obvious difference between the two applications is this application's for an apartment building. The Marlon Court application was for a duplex. So in officers' view, there didn't seem to be any value in taking a broad review of the broader suburb of Palm Beach when you consider that duplex. We actually thought there was more value in considering the character of that street. Obviously, this development that we're talking about now is a little larger than a duplex, so we thought there would actually be value in looking at this one in terms of a broader area with a balance of existing character as well as what's planned by the city plan. So that's the reason for the difference.
Councillor Hammel, you go ahead and close.
Mr Mayor, excellent to have some strong debate between councillors today. I'm going to make this point again. It is excellent to have Councillor Martin in here putting up strong fight on behalf of his community. It is causing good discussion to occur. It's causing good debate to occur, and that is a great thing. Mr Mayor, I have to come back to but that interestingly, and it's already shown that we can read things a different way, but the legal advice talks to where reasonable community expectations of a development are to be found in the planning scheme. It doesn't say that 900 objections undoes that legal document. There wasn't that many objections when the planning scheme was adopted in this place. Councillor McDonald, the previous councillor for the area, didn't object to the planning scheme when it was implemented, which included this height overlay and the 50% uplift test. Mr Mayor,
I think she voted against, Mr Mayor. I'm sorry, that's...
Please sit down.
Okay. So, Mr Mayor, while I do respect the conversation...
Before you speak in the chamber, you show your hand and then whether I allow it or not. You can't just stand up and speak.
Yeah. Mr Mayor, so while I truly do respect the debate backwards and forwards today, I'm going to come back to a position of that we have an entire building of town planners who are employed as professional town planners to assess against our city plan. At committee, we had Roger Sharp, Mick Moran, and the director in the room, which between them, 75, 80 years of planning experience. Roger Sharp with 30 years by himself. They are very, very good at what they do. They have decades of experience. They are the team that lead development assessment of thousands of applications in this city every year. I'm not a town planner. I'm not a visual amenity expert. I'm none of those things. They are here to give us the advice, and I can find nothing in the officer report or nothing in the submissions that would have me go against that advice. Which actually brings me to a good point that I raised in opening, Mr Mayor, that if the objections actually spoke to impact, I might be able to get there. But they don't when they say about meeting community expectations or reinforcing local identity. There's no specifics in the submissions. Most of the submissions just say it doesn't meet the uplift test. I can't get anything from that. There's nothing from that that can lead me to go to the specific page in an officer report and say, well, they've got that part wrong or they've got that part wrong. So, Mr Mayor, I would again urge councillors to respect submissions, but to have greater respect for the fact that we have had a very thorough assessment done in the context of all development applications that go through our team each year, through a lens of the legal advice, not just that we've had here today, but in all the ongoing legal advice that our assessment teams gets, and would urge councillors to support the officer recommendation of approval.
Councillors, I'll call a division. The debate's closed. So all in favour, show of hands.
Mayor Tate, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Curtis, Councillor Hammel, Councillor Fowler, Councillor Gates, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor LeCastro, Councillor Doran, Councillor O'Neill.
Against?
Councillor Young, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Martin, Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall.
Motion carried. Councillor, any other items you want to deal separately? Councillor Peter Young.
Mr Mayor, I was unable to get to committee. I was very sick that day, unfortunately, and there's just a couple of questions I had in regard to the Turf Club matter. And
item number?
I'm just trying to find that, I beg your pardon. Thank you, 6.3, it's on page 249 of the agenda. And I'll just mention, Mr Mayor, I've enjoyed hospitality from the Turf Club in the past, and I've also been involved in protests against activities by the Turf Club. I don't carry any of that history with me. I'm looking at this matter completely with fresh eyes, but happy to entertain any questions or concerns from councillors. Mr Mayor, I just had a question about the ownership to start with, and if someone could help clarify to me, is some part of this site actually still owned by the state, or is it all entirely owned by the Turf Club, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, excuse me, Councillor Young, I think it is that the application that we've got is the Turf Club, and I'm not aware of any other lots being included for the state as part of this application, Councillor Young. So I think there are other lots in that precinct, but for this specific application, it's, as my understanding is, it's owned by the Turf Club. Is that correct, mate?
If I might further, thanks, Mr Mayor. So the area of the track, which has a lake within it, my understanding is not affected by this particular application, like the buildings proposed are outside of that, and the track area itself is not affected.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Young, you're correct. Yeah, the nature of this application is really the land sort of to the northwest of the track.
Yeah. That was how I read it. I just wanted to articulate that publicly, Mr Mayor. And the last question then about that is the colloquially known Black Swan Lake, which is still owned by council but part leased to the club. That's not affected by this application at all.
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, it's not, Councillor Young.
Thanks for your clarification, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Right, any other items? Councillor Hammel.
Do we need to deal with that separately, Mr Mayor, or just wrap it up in the final run? Mr Mayor, would move that all remaining recommendations be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Tozer. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried, unanimous. Governance, Administration and Finance. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Governance, Administration and Finance Committee meeting held on Tuesday 9th of July covering recommendations 3 to 8 be received.
Seconder, Councillor Martin. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carry. Any items you want to deal separately? Councillor Patterson.
I'll move them. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that all those recommendations be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Martin. All in...
I think it's this report. The 7.1 in the minutes, Mr Mayor, on page 7 refers to the retention program update. 7.1 in the agenda refers to marina and pontoon leasing. So there doesn't seem to be any, unless I've missed it, doesn't seem to be any decision here about what's happened to that particular item, which I gather might have been deferred.
Yes, that was removed so that there could be more consultation prior to, for the local councillor to have more consultation.
Okay.
So does it need to be referred to in the minutes that that item's been deferred or withdrawn or something?
Councillor's beaten me to it. A second agenda went out and that one was removed.
My apologies, thank you.
Okay. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carried. Lunch is here. Let's go and eat while it's hot. What do you think, 40 minutes? 40 minutes, good? All right, we'll see you at 12:58. Councillors, we're back on. Councillor Tozer, you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Lifestyle, Environment, Heritage and Resilience Committee meeting held on the Thursday, the 11th of July, covered by recommendations 1 to 13, be received.
Second,
That's you, buddy.
Councillor Marshall.
I was just reading my notes.
All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Any items you want to do separately? Councillor Tozer.
Move that all the recommendations be adopted.
Councillor Marshall. Hollow for Marshall. Seconder. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Right, Councillor Castro, see what you can do here.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move the minutes of the Economy, Tourism and Events Committee held on Thursday, the 11th of July, covered by recommendations 1 to 5, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Fowler. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Any items separately? Councillor Castro.
Move for adoption, please, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Fowler. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Water and Waste, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Water, Waste and Energy Committee held on Tuesday the 16th of July, covered by recommendations 1 to 6, be received.
Seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Any items separately? Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that all remaining recommendations be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Wilkinson. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Councillor Taylor. Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the minutes of the 8:45 Transport and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 16th of July 2024, be covered by recommendations 1 to 4, be received.
Councillor Gates, seconder. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Any items separately? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I move all the recommendations be adopted.
Seconder, Councillor Gates. All in favour, show of hands. Against? Motion carried. Consideration notice of motion. I got nil. 13. Question on notice. Councillor Tozer.
Mr. Mayor, I had a question on notice that I was hoping could potentially be put on the screen so I could read it out.
Have you got a hard copy you can read it out?
I should have had a hard copy, Mr. Mayor, but I didn't prepare. I actually prepared a separate mechanism. I was going to do it through the Governance Committee, but I've changed. I've had some advice saying that I should do it this way. So, Mr. Mayor, if you're happy to accept this question on notice through you to the CEO. The question is, can request that a report on the transition of contingent labour to city employees be referred to the September 2024 Governance, Administration and Finance Committee. Yeah, request, that's it.
Taken on notice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. CEO, you got that?
I got that.
Beautiful. Presentation of petition, Councillor Patterson.
Petition, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, I have a petition that I move is accepted by this council and forwarded for the relevant department to consider.
Okay, that's on the screen, right? Okay, seconder, anyone? Councillor Tozer, put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hand.
May I speak to it very briefly, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, okay.
2 seconds to just say this is a petition. I have heard that this is the largest one that anyone's ever seen. I'm not speaking to the matter. 6,550 handwritten signatures. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
That's what my council.
We like people writing to us.
I've only been here for 20 years.
Councillor Martin, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the petition requesting investigation and impacts relating to the Deodar Drive stormwater drainage upgrade be moved from the lead petitioner, Christine De Brito.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Marshall. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. Councillor Martin again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also move that the petition to investigate the impacts of unlawful camping, particularly in Koala Park and Burleigh Heads, from the lead petitioner Peter Hogben, be moved.
Yeah, seconder, Councillor Tozer. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, a motion carried. All right, 14.4.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've received a petition from residents regarding a proposed or an existing development application, and I move that it be received by council and referred to the planning department for consideration.
Seconder, Councillor Fowler. Put the motion to you. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. 14.5, Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I ask that a petition from the residents of Tumangan Street and Goldenford Drive, Tugan, be accepted and passed on to the Transport and Infrastructure Department for a report. Come back to council.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Martin. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. So that will go to transport. That one. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the petition from Jenny Lynn Fay relating to the dune clearing or exclusive beach use for commercial Cora Beach Bar beyond the current permit 14 days be received and referred to a committee for consideration and report.
All right. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. All in favour, show of hands. Against, motion carried. We go now to general business item. The first one is strategic property acquisition. First up, it's in grey. Any question, anyone?
I'm happy to move the recommendation unless there's other questions. But
move?
Yeah, we've already been briefed on this, Mr.
Move, Councillor Tozer. Seconder, Councillor Peter Young. Anyone want to speak? You want to close?
Secret, Mr. Mayor, but it's an exciting strategic property acquisition.
Fantastic, we love it. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. 15.2, council support policy. Put it on the screen, the motion's there. All right, happy to move that.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder, who's that? Councillor Peter Young. Question, Councillor Gates.
Just where is it and when is it, please, Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Hammel.
Mr. Mayor, 29th, 30th September, 1st and 2nd of October in Melbourne.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Nobody's speaking against that. Okay. Put it to the vote. All in favour, show of hands. Against, carry unanimous. Mr. CEO, I'm sure there's no other.
There is no other.
Meeting closed 13:07.